Yes, you're tuned into CHRY 105.5 FM. As mentioned before, we have L, the 12th letter here, chopping it up with us. And we're going to talk about his album, Hear No Evil, Music to My Ears. So I got actually a chance to listen to the album.
Okay.
And I listened to his, like 13 tracks, right?
13 tracks.
And I can say that for me, I like the album. I enjoyed it a lot. But first off, I wanted to know is, or at least tell the listeners, why did you name it Hear No Evil, Music to My Ears?
Well, that's just kind of like my manifesto. You can't see it right now because the bucket's real low and, you know, I'm real grizzled out. But I have these two tats right behind my head, Hear No Evil on the left side and Music to My on the other. And it's just what I live by. You know, people will tell you a lot of things and you have one of two choices: to either take it in and let it affect you, or you can take it and make something from it and make yourself better. And that's what that whole album really signified for, you know, at least the past 5, 6, 7 years of my life to get to that point, to actually make an album. To make your first album as an artist is never an easy task, and, you know, I believe so strongly in that whole concept that going forward, I want that to be the first thing that people heard from me.
Okay, and that's dope, that the whole Hear No Evil, Music to My Ears concept. Was there a specific vision that you had for it in its whole, or like sonically the sound that you wanted to
definitely
give out?
I wanted it to be like an array of sounds that, you know, I loved, and not just, you know, what people are used to hearing. I wanted to give people a feel of who I am and what they could take away from it in terms of the music that I'm gonna continue to put out, a certain level of quality. I had an 11-piece band play throughout the whole thing, and, you know, live instrumentation is a really big focal point of 12th letter music for me. So doing that and, you know, really just giving a full experience of motion picture music.
Motion picture music.
Yeah.
I like that term. As I mentioned before, I got a chance to listen to it, and I did realize, I think I was searching through your videos, and you showed the behind the scene visuals for the creation of Real MCs.
Right.
And I saw that you had a band there, horns, everything. I thought that was so dope, and that the fact that you paid attention to so much details in the production of the album, even the way that you pronounce certain words, intonation, everything. I thought it was just like, I was surprised and impressed. For it being a first album.
Thank you.
And that you paid so much detail to it. So I just want to know, in a whole, what was the creative process for the album?
It was very intense. The process of making it was real in-house. DJ Merciless, who is like, you know, he's like my primo. You know, like we cut a lot of records together, and I also brought in a musical director, very, very good friend of mine. His name is Andrew Ford, and he was the one who gave me access to all that live instrumentation going on, and he brought in different background singers and things to really fill out the sound. And, you know, the only other producer on it was Lightworks, and he did the Higher record, and which is the current single out right now. But everything else was really in-house. It was a lot of hours, a lot of time, very meticulously. As you mentioned, the detail in it was intense. So to anybody who hears it, a lot of work went into it. So, you know, please take the time to listen.
And how long did it take for you to put together the whole album?
That album, off and on, like 4 years.
4 years, okay. Yeah. All together, just making tracks.
Like, you know, having ideas for songs, and then taking those ideas and, you know, having them on the cutting room floor and saying, well, we'll take this, we'll take this, we'll take this, and, you know, this gets left off, and at the end of it we had 13 tracks. And
okay. And how did you want it to be received by the listeners when you put it out?
I really just wanted people to get a really good understanding of who I am. You know, it's hard to not have any expectations. Of course, we're all human, and we do, and I wanted it to do well, and it did well. It's doing well. You know, the reception has been very positive from it, and it's given me the opportunity to, you know, explore making more music at this level. And, you know, we'll see how the year pans out. There's some things in the works for me that, you know, I'll be happy to share with everyone as soon as they are, you know, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, when I got a chance to listen to the whole album, one thing that I did notice was that I would say you're not a rapper. You're an MC. And a lot of people may be listening and say, what do you mean he's not a rapper, he's an MC? Right. But there is a difference.
There is a big difference.
A big difference. I want to know, like, in you yourself, do you notice that difference between you and other rappers, quote unquote?
Yeah, of course I notice it, but I don't look down on anyone who does their thing and is just like a rapper. It's not something to be ashamed of. Mm-hmm. Like, there are very successful rappers and there are very, successful MCs, and it's all about what you put into it. And at the end of the day, you get out what you put in. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, you go into a profession like this not expecting to be, a mega gazillionaire.
Yeah.
You're obviously doing it for the love. Mm-hmm. So that's what MCing to the core for me is.
And that's definitely true. If I was to tell anyone, just listening to you rap over the beats, it was more like you took it as an art form. It wasn't, as I mentioned, rapping over the beats. It was more like it's poetry. It was everything, even where you laid certain rhymes and the way, as I said, you pronounced it. It was like an art form. How important is that art form and culture to you?
It's everything to me, man. There was a point where I wasn't doing music maybe 2-3 years ago, and the void that was left in my life was so vast that, for me, the culture is just, it's bigger than the music. It's everywhere. You see it. It's all over the world. And this hip-hop thing is something that people didn't think would last, but we're still here, man. And it's only going to continue to grow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also another thing that I noticed was if the whole sound in general, I would say reminds me of the 90s vibe. Mm-hmm. More back, like as you mentioned, you said your influences were Jay-Z, Biggie, Bad Boy records in general. It had that whole 90s vibe. And me personally, I'm a person that I would be the first to admit, I don't like when rappers say I'm bringing the real hip-hop back.
Yeah.
Because to me, real is what's real to you.
Right.
Right? So you saying you're an artist that for the first time, I guess, in a while, you've brought it back, but it wasn't like I meant to bring it back. It was more just, this is me. It's real. Because when a lot of artists say I'm bringing the real hip-hop back, they sound fake.
Right.
They sound fake, like they set out to achieve this and this task. Like, we're going to use these old samples. It's going to sound like primo. But you, on the other hand, impressed me because it sounded organic. Mm-hmm. Like it came from you. Tell me just about the influence that the 90s and the whole vibe back then had on you.
I don't know. Just, it's something about that time period of music. Like, you can remember where you were when you heard certain records. For me, I remember the first time I heard, Can I Kick It, or I Left My Wallet in El Segundo, or Mama Said Knock You Out. Like, the music doesn't just bring you sound, it brings you to a place that you can remember and visualize, and that's what I was really trying to make. Mm-hmm. Again, touching on motion picture music is what I really want to stress to the people that I'm trying to make is music that you don't just hear audibly, it's music that you see. And it, it's soundtracking for your life. So when you look back on certain things that I've done and hopefully with the way this pans out for me, you'll be like, I remember when I heard that record. I remember how it made me feel. And that's what I want to bring. And to me, that's what the essence of the 90s was. Yeah.
That's definitely dope there. And thinking about how hip hop has progressed from the 90s, we're now in 2013. Tell me a little bit or your opinions on the whole progression of hip hop and where it's at right now.
I think hip hop, everything goes in cycles, and I think hip hop's in a good place right now. It's like, you're never going to be in a perfect world, and things are never going to be the way you want them. And for every, person out there that says, man, I hate the way rap is, I'm sure if you go back to the 90s and the so-called golden era, there were whack musicians out then too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For every Biggie, you still had somebody saying, man, I didn't like Biggie.
Yeah.
For people who loved it. At the time, there was the people who were like, nah, man, I like Rakim better. That's a god MC.
Yeah.
Who's this new cat? Big. Yeah. Who's this new cat? Nas. Nah, I ain't messing with him.
Yeah.
So it's just like everything goes in cycles, and we got to learn to grow, and we got to be open to new ideas and new sounds and just keep it moving.
Yeah, definitely. Because even me, I know I meet people like, let's say, some older heads.
Yeah.
And they still tell me Big Daddy Kane's the best rapper. And I'm not going to argue that's your opinion, because especially in the time probably that they were growing.
He was.
And they're probably like just amazed. And when Biggie came out, they're probably like, oh, he's not Big Daddy Kane.
He's not Big Daddy Kane. But nor was he trying to be Big Daddy Kane.
Exactly.
He was trying to be big.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I think that speaks to, you know, people just don't want to let go. And that's not a bad thing either. You like what you like. It's preference at the end of the day, right?
And that's and in reality, that's what made hip-hop evolve. New sounds come out. There's a group of people who like this specific sound, and it develops and catches on. So, like as you mentioned, it's all a cycle. So, one thing that before we go, because I'm gonna make you freestyle before we cut.
Okay.
I want you to let all the listeners know where they can get your music. Any last words for the listeners?
Okay. Well, if you haven't downloaded the album yet, you could definitely get it at 12lettermusic.com, or as I said, if it's even easier for you, at 12letter music on my Twitter, just download it straight from the bio. And I do have a show coming up at the Measure, 296 Brunswick Street, Wednesday night. I'll be rocking there with some local cats and, you know, hoping to put on a good show for the city of Toronto on Wednesday night. So if you're not doing anything, come through.